What's good people from YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and all other places? This is Jeff Lightsy Jr. with the Victory Formation Sports Show in the Black Boss channel. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe, because today we have a jam-packed show. We go live every weekday, 6 p.m. Eastern, and we're going to be talking about Carmelo Anthony, the NBA Christmas games, and whether or not Melo's career would be totally different if he was drafted by the Pistons as opposed to the Nuggets in the 2003 NBA draft. I have one person that says the Pistons would have never won the championship if they would have drafted Melo over Darko Milicic. We're going to talk about that right after the bumper. What's good people? Jeff Lightsy Jr. here with the Black Boss channel and Victory Formation. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe, and the notification bell because we upload every single day. Now, before we get to Melo, the NBA dropped their Christmas schedule, and it is a good one. I mean, jam-packed, all the stars, everybody's playing everybody, the games that you and I all want to see. Let's look at some of the NBA Christmas games. We're just going to go straight to Twitter with it. And the best tweet that I saw out came from the guys over at Bleacher Report. You know, we mess with Bleacher Report heavy right here. And let's look at some of these NBA Christmas Day games. You got the Hawks at the Knicks, which is a rematch of the first round 2021 playoff matchup. Celtics versus Bucks. The defending champs will get an easy win against the Celtics. I'm not too crazy about that one. The Warriors versus Suns. Now, this is going to be interesting because obviously the Warriors have Klay Thompson coming back. They're looking to revenge mode. A lot of people think the Warriors will be contenders once again. And then the Suns want to prove that they just weren't a one-trick pony, right? A one-year wonder, a team that wants to show that they're still one of the best in the Western Conference. And then the headliner, the Brooklyn Nets versus the Los Angeles Lakers. LeBron James, Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis versus James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving. That is the one we're going to focus on. And then obviously the one to put everybody to bed is Luka Doncic and the Mavericks. I'm just playing versus the Utah Jazz and my guy Donovan Mitchell. Now this is a heck of an NBA Christmas matchup, a heck of an NBA Christmas lineup, one that everybody is going to be tuned in for. But like I said, the number one game is the Brooklyn Nets versus the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, we know LeBron and the Lakers haven't always fared the best on Christmas Day games. I mean, I'm pretty sure last year they lost to the Clippers on Christmas. LeBron, when he was in Miami, he used to make it a point to, like, punish people on Christmas, right? Because LeBron plays on Christmas every single year. I think ever since he left Miami, I don't know if he just hasn't been into it or Christmas games just don't really get him excited because we know LeBron, along with a ton of other players, do a lot of the load management stuff throughout the regular season. So they're not people that's going to get up and go crazy over Christmas Day games, and that's just not their style anymore. That's not what they're into. So, LeBron just goes to work. He still tries to play to win, but Christmas, playing a game on Christmas isn't something that he's just all anxious and amped up for like I guess he used to be. But the Hawks versus the Knicks is the one that's really great because it's in the Garden. It's in the Garden. And we know how the New York Knicks fans felt about Trae Young in the Garden during the playoffs. Like, the New York Knicks fans went crazy on Trae Young at the Garden during the playoffs. It was a spectacle, and Trae Young put on historic performance, just crazy good performances during those games. So I cannot wait. And even the game that I kind of poked fun at, the Mavericks versus the Jazz. The Jazz are one of the best teams in the Western Conference. They're going to have another great record. Donovan's going to be healthy. The Mavericks, let's see how they retool this roster around Luka. And he signed the big max extension. See if they're able to get Porzingis to work with Luka. If not, they're going to have to move off Porzingis and try to get some more help for Luka Doncic down there in Dallas. So the NBA Christmas Day lineup is pretty crazy. I can't wait. I'm glad that it came out today, and I'm glad we're going to see some exciting basketball throughout the NBA season. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe. Now, one thing that I want to show you all that was brought to my attention was Carmelo Anthony. One of the best podcasts out right now is the All the Smoke podcast, right? Hosted by Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes. And Carmelo Anthony was on the All the Smoke podcast, and he was on there, and they asked him about his career and how his career would have fared if he would have been drafted by the Detroit Pistons. Now, for those of you who don't remember, the NBA draft in 2003 is one of the best drafts in NBA history. I mean, obviously, LeBron James was the number 1 overall pick. Melo went 3. Chris Bosh went 4. Dwayne Wade went 5, and then so on and so forth. I mean, those guys right there, you draft 4 Hall of Famers in the top 5. That's a pretty good draft, I'd say. I mean, you let me know in the chat. You let me know in the comments. Wouldn't you think that's a pretty good draft if you draft 4 Hall of Famers in the top 5 picks, right? But the one guy that wasn't a Hall of Famer, that'll never be a Hall of Famer, was the guy who went number 2, 1 spot ahead of Carmelo Anthony, and that was Darko Milicic. Now, Melo was on All the Smoke. He was on All the Smoke podcast, and he was talking about the 2003 draft and Darko being taken ahead of him. Now, I'm not gonna show the video because you know what I'm saying. You know how it gets. They get to demonetizing and stuff like that, and I don't want to take any chances on that. But I will play you the audio of what Melo had to say. I'll share my screen, and we're gonna listen to the audio of Carmelo Anthony talking about whether he should have been drafted by the Detroit Pistons, his reaction and all that. Let's listen to it now.
You took Darko. Do you ever think, because that was a good Detroit team, obviously they went on to win championships. Do you ever think of that, like,
changed the course of my career?
Man, right?
Insert him.
It
was, I'm going to tell you what, man, to this day, I still think about that.
Really?
Yeah, hell yeah. Because I'm like, they promised me. You know what I'm saying? Yo, we taking you. We taking you. I'm talking all the way up to draft day. You understand? We taking you. So in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to Detroit. I get Chauncey there. Johnny John. Man, all these guys is there. She came in the middle of the year. I mean, she got traded.
Oh, that's right.
And that's what really put them over the top. But they was like, yo, you gonna share time with Tayshaun? I'm like, cool. Like, I ain't, I'm gonna come and do my thing, but I don't know how long I'm gonna share time with them. You know what I'm saying? I'm just coming and do my thing. And then they won it. And I'm like, my luck. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm there, I think they win another one. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wouldn't jump out there so we 3-peat football. I think we go back to back if I'm there. Because that second year for me, I would have learned from those guys. They was all vets, and I would have learned from those guys in the way that second year coming back, I'd have been a totally different player coming back. But,
Everything happens for a reason.
But I was, yeah, man. I still think about that shit, though, to this day, bro. I'm like,
because I want to say, then we had Rip on the show, and Rip swore you was coming too.
I'm telling you, man, we drove from Beatmore to Philly. Me and my man Bay, we drove from Beatmore to Philly, man, to go watch. It was Detroit versus Philly. And Larry Brown had already took the job at Detroit, but he was still coaching Philly. So we're in the back, and he's like, yo, we taking you. Like, we taking you. So, I'm driving back up 95, like, yo, we going to Detroit. The whole hood, we Detroit. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, that shit still sit with me to this day.
So obviously Melo is still affected by that, man. And that was what was surprising to me, is the fact that Carmelo Anthony still thinks about this. I mean, think about this. 2003 was 19 years ago, right? Like, it was almost 20 years ago, right? Like, well, I guess he's going to his 19th season. Let me take that back. He's going to his 19th season. But it was almost 20 years ago, and somehow, some way, he still thinks about what would have happened, how his career would have ended up if he was drafted by the Detroit Pistons as opposed to the Denver Nuggets at pick number 3, been drafted at number 2 instead of number 3. Because obviously, like he said, during the 2003-2004 season, Detroit went on to win the championship. They acquired Rasheed Wallace in a midseason trade, and they went on to win the title. And they went on to go to, 4-5 straight Eastern Conference Finals, right? Like, they went on to be the dominant team of the Eastern Conference during that period. And Melo is saying, yo, you add me to that team? Not only do we win it that year in 2003, But we also, 2003, 2004, but we also go back to back. He believes they would have beat the Spurs the very next year, because that's the team who won it the next year, was the San Antonio Spurs, and they would have been a dominant, like almost mini dynasty, right? Now, this viewer, shout out to Grand Swing, he says Joe Dumars never lived that down. He's still a legend as a player and executive, though, but you never lived down passing up on Melo. I got someone right here that says Darko Milicic wouldn't have freeloaded to an NBA championship and wouldn't be the worst number 2 draft pick ever. He would have been the worst number 3 draft pick ever. Well, see, the thing about Darko, the reason why, and I hate to say this because he seems like a good guy after the documentary that I watched, but the worst number 2 draft pick ever, it's not Darko, guys. It's the guy who was drafted over Michael Jordan. Because you got to remember, Michael Jordan was the number 3 overall pick. And Sam Bowie. Sam Bowie is the worst number 2 draft pick of all time. Let's be honest. Let's keep it a buck. Sam Bowie was drafted ahead of Jordan during the 1984 NBA draft. Sam Bowie, albeit it was because of injury, not because of skill or lack of talent, right? But injuries are injuries, and they're just a part of your career, and you can be labeled a bust if you have injuries, especially when the guy who's drafted right behind you is Michael Jordan. Like Michael Jeffrey Jordan. Like, so I'm sorry, Sam Bowie's the worst number 2 pick of all time, not Darko Milicic. And this Will Dill says, damn, had me thinking he went to the Pistons. No, he didn't go to the Pistons. He's on the Carmelo's on the Lakers now, right? But he could have went to the Pistons back in 2003 during the 2003 draft. He was taken number 3 overall, whereas Darko Milicic went number 2 overall. Said Larry Brown destroyed Darko Milicic's career. See, I find that interesting, Octavius. I don't know, because I wasn't a huge follower of the Pistons. I watched them because they were really good and they were on TV a lot, but I don't know the dynamics between Darko and Larry Brown. Larry Brown, he's a pretty good basketball coach. He got them to win that championship. He won a college championship, and he's done a lot of great things in the sport of basketball. So I'm not exactly sure, but this is what essentially would have been the lineup: Ben Wallace, Rasheed Wallace, a prime young ripe Melo to go along with Rip Hamilton and Chauncey Billups with Tayshaun Prince. Tayshaun would have been the starter on the championship team, but by year 2, you wouldn't have been able to put Melo on the bench. Like, I mean, it's just Melo averaged like 20 points a game his rookie year. Like, Melo will be and always was a better player than Tayshaun Prince. It's not a knock on Tayshaun. Tayshaun's a good NBA player, but he ain't Carmelo Anthony. I mean, if we're just being honest. So there's no way you would have been able to put, invalidate, and justify having Melo on the bench for 2 years. 1 year is hard enough, but especially for 2 years. But I have an excerpt, but there is, you talk about Ben Wallace, Rasheed Wallace, Melo, Rip, and Billups, but there is somebody from that Detroit team that does not believe that does believe if they would have drafted Carmelo over Darko Milicic, that they wouldn't have been the same team. There is somebody that played on the team, a significant role on that team, that does not believe his team would have been as good if they would have drafted Carmelo over Darko Milicic. And that somebody is recently inducted to the NBA Hall of Fame, Ben Wallace. Ben Wallace does not believe that. He says that if Carmelo would have been taken over Darko, the Pistons wouldn't have won a championship. This is not something I'm making up. So I'm going to read to you an excerpt from an interview Ben Wallace did with Podcast 120 Watts. The former NBA player and the member of the Pistons championship squad, Ben Wallace, explained how he believes the Pistons made a smart decision. He made a smart decision by not drafting Carmelo. Even though that might sound like a surprise, he thinks it was the right move for 2 main reasons. Darko immediately said that he is not ready to play for a team aiming to win a championship, which enabled the team to grow and focus on winning. On the other hand, Carmelo was the type of player that wanted minutes immediately, which in Ben's mind wouldn't work and would potentially disrupt the team's chemistry. That key word, because that was one thing. I'm gonna make this bigger, my bad, y'all. That was one thing that made this Pistons team special, is they had great chemistry, and Ben Wallace believes that Carmelo could have potentially messed up said chemistry. I'm going to read you his exact quote. He said, quote, "If we would have drafted Carmelo, I honestly don't think we would ever win a championship. Melo would want to play right away. That would have potential to disrupt the team chemistry. By drafting Darko, he came in and said that he is not ready to play on this team. Who am I going to play in front of? I'm not ready." And by doing that and accepting his role, it allowed us to build and grow and get stronger and eventually win a championship. This is from Hall of Famer Ben Wallace. This is Hall of Famer Ben Wallace saying that Carmelo would have messed up the team chemistry. Leave your thoughts in the chat. We're getting to them. Do you believe, are you in agreement with Ben Wallace? Do you think Carmelo would have messed up the team chemistry? The team chemistry in Detroit? We've got Graham Swing says, why did this happen? And then we got Tayshaun's defense was locking up dudes. T-Mac Cope. Yeah, Tayshaun was a great player, right? Tayshaun, he made his bones by playing great defense, hitting good threes, being a three-point shooter. A 3-and-D guy is what we call him now. I'm not sure if we called him that back then, but Tayshaun Prince was a solid NBA player. But we're talking about Carmelo Anthony. Like, we're talking about Carmelo. I know Melo has been kind of like bouncing around the league now, right? Like he bounced around the league a lot now because, he's up in age. He's in year, 19 and he wants to continue to play. But do we need to go get a refresher on who Carmelo Anthony is? Like is Ben Wallace, is he asleep at the wheel? I know he's a Hall of Famer. I know he was a 3 or 4 time, I think he was a 4-time defensive player of the year. I know he's got a Hall of Fame career and you know what I'm saying? He did all the great things with Detroit, but are we forgetting who Melo is? Like, do I have to refresh, remind him and remind those that seem to think Carmelo was like some soup sandwich, right? Like, well, let's do a little refresher real quick. I just put up Carmelo Anthony's Wikipedia page, right? So, Carmelo Anthony is a 10-time All-Star, a 2-time NBA second team, All-NBA second team, a 4-time All-NBA third team. So he made the All-NBA team 6 times. He was a scoring champion in 2013. He was an NCAA champion in 2003 while also taking home the best player in the Final Four, NCAA Final Four most outstanding player. He was an All-American in college. His jersey is retired by Syracuse. He's a 2-time USA Male Athlete of the Year. Team USA, and then even if you go back to high school, he was a parade and the McDonald's All-American. So Carmelo Anthony is a beast, dog. I think Ben Wallace might have got confused, and I get it. He's saying that the chemistry wouldn't have been the same if they would have had Melo. Darko accepted his role, and you know what I'm saying, and did all of that, and that's cool, right? Like that Darko accepted it. He wasn't championship material, but see, Melo was championship material. Melo came in, and I want to say averaged 20 points a game as a rookie, right? So Melo came into the league ready to hoop. Now let me go down because Wikipedia I know has his points per game on here somewhere. So let's go the 2003-2004 season. So Melo was healthy, he was young, he was spry, he played all 82 games. That's right here. It's all 82. Let's zoom in a little bit. Made us go up. But he played all 82 games. That's right there. All 82 games, averaging 36 minutes per game. Shot 43% from the field, 77 from free throw, and averaged 21 points per game. So, Melo for this first up until 2018, till he went to the Oklahoma City Thunder, never averaged under 20 points per game throughout the entirety of a season, right? Throughout the entire season, Melo never averaged less than 20 per game, right? The lowest he ever averaged for the first, 14 years of his career was 20.8 in his second year, right? So his second year, his field goal percentage went up. His minutes actually went down, but he missed a few games. He missed about 8 games that year, or 7 games that year. But he still averaged 20 per game. And then by year 3, he was a star, right? He averaged 26 and then 28 and then 25, 22, 28, 25, 26, 22, 28, 27, 24. Melo became a star in this league, right? A Hall of Fame, surefire Hall of Famer, 10-time All-Star. And Ben Wallace doesn't think that would have helped the Pistons? Like, somebody, please, somebody in the chat, somebody in the comments, please tell me, what is Ben Wallace talking about? Like, I get it. Team chemistry was huge on those Pistons teams, right? Team chemistry was huge. But their go-to scorer were scorers were Chauncey Billups, Mr. Big Shot. He hit some really big shots, especially during the playoffs, and Rip Hamilton. And you mean to tell me Carmelo Anthony couldn't have come and helped that team win a title? Couldn't have come and helped that team win multiple titles? Because the Pistons went to the Eastern Conference Finals every year for like 4 or 5 straight years. Like, that team was one of the best, if not the best team in the Eastern Conference over a 5-year stretch. And you don't think Melo could have helped that? Yeah, having someone capable of dropping 50 is really bad chemistry. I mean, that's what I'm saying, Grant Rising. Shout out to you, and be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe. Like, it makes absolutely, positively no sense to me. Like, how is it that Carmelo Anthony, who we just ran through his points per game, by year 3 was averaging almost 27 a game. By year 4, he averaged almost 30. 5, 6, and 7, he was still hovering around 30. 8, 9, and 10 still hovering around 30. And a couple of these years, he shot like 42% from 3, 36% from 3, 38% from 3, 37% from 3, 40% from 3. And not to mention his field goal percentage is always around 80%. I'm kind of baffled by the comments by Ben Wallace. I don't know about you all, but I'm almost stunned the fact that he doesn't believe Carmelo Anthony, like, stay mellow, that Carmelo Anthony couldn't have helped that Pistons team win the title in 2004 and potentially win more than one title during that era. An era they showed that they had the capability, the wherewithal, the team chemistry, all of that to go and win a championship. But answer me this. When was Carmelo Anthony ever called a bad teammate? Like, was Carmelo ever called a bad teammate? Leave your thoughts in the chat. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Was Carmelo Anthony ever called a bad teammate by anybody that he played with? By any of his friends, his teammates, anybody? Did they ever say, like, man, that damn Melo, he gets on my nerves because he's a ball hog, or he's just a bad guy, or whatever? Like, did that ever take place? I don't know. You guys let me know. Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the chat. Was Carmelo Anthony ever called a bad teammate? Because if he was, I don't remember. I don't remember it taking place. So, I don't know, man. These guys, Ben Wallace, I know he's a Hall of Famer, a great player, an amazing player, but there's no way that Melo wouldn't have made that team better. Grant Swing says this is from a mid-range score, pre-3-point revolution. Yes, and Melo was like that. Like, Melo was one of the most lethal scorers in the NBA over the first 10 to 15 years of his career. He's one of the most lethal scorers in the league. There's not too many like scorers that played during Melo's era that can just go out and get me a bucket like Melo. I'll give you Steph. Well, a lot of these guys are like now, right? Like in 2003, they weren't really in the NBA. But I give you Steph, Dame, Kevin Durant, and I got to throw Bron in there. People don't like to say Bron's a scorer, but he's averaged 25 points for 18 straight years. Like, so Bron's in there. Steph, Dame, Bron. Steph, Dame, Bron. I can't think of nobody else. I can't think of anybody else that can score like Carmelo Anthony. Get the ball, put it in the basket. Steph, Dame, Bron. It's about it. During his era, like during this time, I mean, Steph, Dame, Bron. That's literally the list. Like, that's literally the list. Carmelo Anthony is special, man. And the fact that he still thinks like that. Like, what does that say about Melo? The fact that, 18, 19 years later, he still thinks about, like, what his career would have been if he'd have went to the Detroit Pistons. If he was drafted by the Detroit Pistons in 2003. right? Detroit would have been a powerhouse they were a powerhouse for a long time without drafting Melo. But Melo would have extended it, right? Like, how would that have been for LeBron? You know them times that LeBron knocked the Pistons out of the playoffs because, he was outscoring the whole team? Tayshaun Prince is no defense for LeBron James when he's scoring 28 straight on you in the Eastern Conference Finals. Like, does that happen if Melo's on that team giving Bron buckets back? Because there was nobody, like, if you watched that game, it was a scuttlebutt, terrible display of shooting of basketball, right? But Bron just was able to take over because he was the one that was the bucket getter. But there was nobody on Detroit's team. Like, Chauncey hit some shots and Rip hit some shots, but there was no, like, true bucket getter on the Detroit team. If Melo's there, does LeBron go off for 28 straight and go to the Eastern Conference Finals? I'm not sure. I mean, goes on to the NBA Finals to play the Spurs? I'm not sure. Maybe that's Detroit instead because Melo is exchanging buckets with Bron. I mean, like the possibilities are endless. They definitely would have won the championship in 03-04. Like, definitely. Like, that, Ben Wallace is tweaking when he said they wouldn't have. They definitely would have won. They played a Lakers team that was just about to blow up, that had a bunch of old guys with Gary Payton and Karl Malone. Kobe and Shaq hated each other. Like, that team, Detroit was going to win that game in 5 and 6, and almost a sweep. Like, yeah, that's it. I didn't leave out KD. Well, if I did, my bad. I think Dame LeBron. I said Dame, LeBron, Steph, and KD. Those are the only three. And maybe Harden, if you consider Harden. I guess, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, those are the three. It's up there with. Oh, and then AI. Yeah, AI is definitely like a hooper. That's true. That's true. You guys saying Ryan McKillen said can't leave out KD. You're absolutely right. Grant Swing said AI. Yeah, I can't sleep on Allen Iverson. But, I mean, LeBron's probably not able to score 28 straight. You probably beat Cleveland, and you go on to play San Antonio in the 07 NBA Finals. Now, I'm not saying you win that because San Antonio was a different kind of animal, right? San Antonio, the Spurs were a different kind of animal. But you got a better chance. You have a way better chance with Melo as opposed to Cleveland with just Bron. That Detroit Pistons team with Melo as opposed to Cleveland with just LeBron, right? I mean, man, that is but the fact that he still thinks about that is because he hasn't won a championship. And that's why I think this year with the Lakers is so critical for Carmelo, because this is his best chance he's ever had in his career to win a championship. But you heard, I'm going to repeat that again. This season, this upcoming season, is the best chance in his career that he has ever had to win an NBA championship. So, I'm rooting for Melo. Yeah, Dafford. Yeah, so I definitely LeBron, Westbrook, AD, Melo. LeBron, Westbrook, AD, Melo is the squad that's going to take on. They're going to get a finals preview on Christmas Day. The Lakers versus Brooklyn. I'm calling it. As long as, knocking on wood, as long as everybody stays healthy, I'm calling it the Lakers versus the Brooklyn Nets in the NBA Finals. There are not two teams, not Milwaukee, not Golden State, not the Phoenix Suns. There are no two teams in the NBA right now that are better than the Brooklyn Nets and the Los Angeles Lakers. Not the Clippers. Kawhi Leonard's going to be hurt all year. Not Milwaukee, even though they got the freak in Middleton, and Drew Holiday proved a lot of people wrong, but they also got very, very lucky because the Brooklyn Nets were injured and Kevin Durant wears an 18 and not a 15, because if he did, they would have went home. It's just point blank period. It's the truth. When they played Brooklyn, when Brooklyn was fully healthy, they beat them by 40. Brooklyn beat them by 40. Oh, they were up by 40 at one point. I don't think they ended up winning the game by 27 or something, but they were up by 40 points on Milwaukee. This is the team that won the NBA championship. Like, Brooklyn is really like that. Like, Kevin Durant, James Harden, Kyrie Irving, they're really like that. So, yeah, this is the best chance. Now, Ryan McClendon says on paper. I mean, yeah, it's on paper. But we saw Brooklyn play in person. And we watched them play against the team that ended up winning the championship, the Milwaukee Bucks, and they were up by 40 at one point. Like, when Kyrie Irving and James Harden played, the games weren't even particularly fun to watch. They weren't even competitive. They would make Milwaukee quit. That's how much better they were than the team that won a championship. Now, no disrespect to Milwaukee, but Milwaukee really hasn't upgraded the roster. They lost P.J. Tucker for whatever that's worth. They haven't upgraded anywhere. They kept their guys. They kept Bobby Portis. They lost P.J. P.J. gave him good minutes. He's one of those stay in shape, good cardio out there. He's not making any shots, but he tries his best to play defense on some of the top best scorers in the world. But they didn't upgrade the roster. Brooklyn did. They went out and got Patty Mills. The Lakers did. They got Westbrook and Carmelo. The Bucks didn't really get better. Phoenix stayed the same. They kept their guys, kept Chris Paul, kept Cameron Payne. But, the Heat are a deeper team. Maybe. I don't know how good the Heat is. The Heat put a lot of they put a lot of stock into Kyle Lowry and Duncan Robinson. And I don't know if I like that. Right? Putting a whole lot of stock into Kyle Lowry and Duncan Robinson. $90 million to Duncan Robinson? Kyle Lowry? That Victor Oladipo, maybe he can give you something. I guess I'd be more excited about him, but we don't even know if he still likes to play basketball. He'd be taking these terrible deals and running himself out of cities. I don't even know if Victor Oladipo even likes to still hoop. So, man, this is going to be a fun NBA season, but it's crazy to think that Carmelo Anthony still thinks about what if he would have got drafted by the Detroit Pistons. They would have won more than one championship. I can almost guarantee that. If Melo would have went to Detroit in 2003, they would have won more than one championship. Leave your thoughts in the chat. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Once again, I'm Jeff Lightsy Jr. with the Black Boss Channel and Victory Formation. Thank you guys for tuning in. We're here every weekday. Every weekday, 6 p.m. Eastern. Every weekday, 6 p.m. Eastern. And for my folks over on Facebook, you can find it right there, Jeff Lightsy Sports on Facebook. Here every single weekday, 6 p.m. Eastern. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you next time. Peace.